This is our third lesson, Alhamdulillah, in Tafsir of Surah Kahf. In our last lesson, in our last session, we learned that the basic theme or the main theme of Surah Kahf is the demonstration of the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That whoever seeks protection in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whoever turns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect him. And we have also mentioned in our last lesson some of the blessings and some of the fadail of Surah Kahf. And we also tried to understand why this surah is linked with the protection from the Dajjal. So these were the three things that we have learned so far. Number one, the theme of Surah Kahf. Number two, the blessings of Surah Kahf. And number three, the reason why this surah or the beginning of this surah is linked with the protection from the Dajjal. There is only one point that I want to add here, and then inshallah we will understand the reason of revelation, that why this surah was revealed, and that's our main topic of tonight's session. Why this surah was revealed. But there's one point that I want to add here, inshallah, which you will find very interesting, is that the name of this surah, which is Al-Kahf, and by the way, this is the name that is mentioned by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that this is the name. Surah, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself told that the name of this surah is Al-Kahf. There is a very clear similarity between the name of this surah and the theme of this surah. I just said that the main theme of this surah is the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That if you turn to Allah for protection, Allah will protect you. This is the main theme of this surah. What is the name of this surah? Al-Kahf. Kahf means cave. And cave, it's a very, it's a very symbolic place of protection. So for example, Ghar Thor, Ghar Hira, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected Rasulullah sallallahu, he was in the cave and Allah protected him. He was in the cave and the wahi came. So cave is a very symbolic place of protection. So here you can see a similarity between the theme of Surah Kahf and the name of Surah Kahf. So alhamdulillah, this was the one point that I missed in my last session that I wanted to add. Now the reason of revelation. It is mentioned in the books of Tafsir, many books of Tafsir, and generally speaking, the books of Tafsir are not as authentic as the books of Ahadith. They are authentic. Please don't feel like I'm undermining the importance of Tafsir books. They are authentic, but technically speaking, they are not as authentic as the books of Ahadith. So there is a narration mentioned in the books of Tafsir. Allah knows how authentic it is, but Ibn Kathir rahmatullah alayhi and Tabari rahmatullah alayhi have mentioned that narration. That's why I'm narrating it to all of you and I'm sharing it with all of you. They said that the reason that this surah was revealed is that the people of the Quraysh, they have never heard any prophet or any book before, until Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam started preaching them. And when Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam started preaching them, they became confused. So they went to some of their elders, An-Nadr bin Harith and Uqba bin Abi Mu'ayt. They went to these elders and they requested them that if you can please go to the Yahud of Yathrib, because understand that in that community, in that society, in that climate, in that environment, the most educated people were the Jews of Yathrib, which is now called Medina. So they said, can you please go to the Jews, to the Yahud of Yathrib and ask them what is a prophet? How do we know that what is a prophet? What are the true signs of a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So can you go and ask them? So they traveled all the way to Yathrib and they spoke to the Yahud of Yathrib and they said to them that there is a person among us, he is claiming to be a prophet. How do we know if he is a prophet or not? So they said to him, so the Yahud of Yathrib, they said that ask him 3 questions. Test him with these 3 questions. If he is able to answer these 3 questions, then he is your prophet. The first question is, tell us about the story of those young men who fled away seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's protection, meaning Ashabul Kahf, the people of Kahf. So tell us the story of people of Kahf. Number 2, tell us the story of the king that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed him with east and west. Allah gave him so much that Allah blessed him with east and west. So tell us the story of that king. Who is the king? What's the name of that king? Remember the first session that we had? Zulqarnain. The king, Zulqarnain. So tell us the story of Zulqarnain. And number 3, they said this question is a very tricky question. Ask him about the ruh, about the soul. Ask him to tell you about ruh, about the soul. And they said this is a tricky question. Anybody who answers this question definitely he is not a prophet. So he should know the answer of the first two questions, but he should not know the third question or the answer of the third question, because nobody could know what is ruh. Only Allah knows what is ruh. So if he answers the third question, that means definitely he is not a prophet. So Uqba bin Abi Mu'ayth and An-Nadhr bin Haris, they went back to Mecca. They went to the people of Quraysh. They told them what they have learned from the Yahud of Yathrib. And then the people of Quraysh, they went up to Rasulullah and they said, okay, we understand that you claim to be a prophet. Give us the answer of these three questions. Who were these young men who sought Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's refuge, fleeing persecution? Who was that king that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed with the east and the west? And they said, finally, tell us about the ruh. What is this soul? What is this thing inside of us? What is that ruh? Give us the answer of these three questions, and then we believe that you are a true prophet. Now, by that time, Prophet ﷺ is pretty much accustomed to Jibreel ﷺ coming to him at a certain time of the week. So, for example, once a week, Jibreel ﷺ is coming and meeting Rasulullah ﷺ, and he was accustomed to that. That particular time was tomorrow. So Prophet ﷺ said to them, Prophet ﷺ is expecting that Jibreel ﷺ, he would come tomorrow at the same time, like he comes every single week. So Prophet ﷺ said to them, okay, you go today, come back to me tomorrow at that time, and I will give you the answers of all of your questions. And he is confident, so he does not say, Inshallah. He did not say, he forgot to say, or he couldn't say Inshallah, because he was confident that Jibreel ﷺ would come. Now instead of one day, it was delayed. Some reports say for 3 days, some says for 15 days. Jibreel ﷺ never came. And the people of Quraysh are now happy that Prophet ﷺ promised tomorrow and nothing is happening tomorrow. And nothing is happening for so many days. So until Jibreel ﷺ, we will understand that story later on inshallah. Until Jibreel ﷺ came with two surahs. Surah Al-Isra and Surah Kahf. And even in the Quran, if you look at the tartib, at the order of the surah, they come one after the other. So the first one is Surah Al-Isra, and the second one is Surah Kahf. And in both of these surahs, all of these answers were given. So the story about the young man who fled away seeking Allah's protection, the story about Surah Ashab al-Kahf, the people of the cave, is the beginning of Surah Kahf. The story about Zulqarnain is the ending of Surah Kahf. So the beginning and the ending of this surah is giving the answer to all those two questions. What was the third question? What is the ruh? And they said they won't be able, he should not be able to answer that question. That question is answered in Surah Al-Isra. So what does Allah say in Surah Al-Isra? يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ. Let me tell you the ayah so that you can go back and yeah, verse number 85. Surah Al-Isra, verse number 85. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ. They ask you about ruh, about the soul, about ar-ruh. قُلْ, tell them, ar-ruhu min amri rabbi. Ruh is from the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ. And you have not given any kind of knowledge إِلَّا قَلِيلًا, except a very small amount of knowledge. Meaning, you don't have enough knowledge to understand what is ruh. And subhanAllah, even scientifically, doctors are sitting here, medically, scientifically, you cannot even to this day tell what is ruh. You can talk about ruh as much as you want to, but it's beyond our understanding. We cannot explain what is ruh. So that's the exact same thing. So, they said that he won't be able to answer that question, so definitely he is not able to answer that question. So he answered all these three questions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the answer of all these three questions in these two surah. Couple of interesting points. I still have time, 10 minutes. I still have 5 minutes. So a couple of interesting points and inshallah I'm done. Another interesting point about Surah Al-Kahf is that if you were to count the words of the Quran, which some ulama have done, mashallah, you will come to the conclusion that Surah Al-Kahf is the exact middle of the Quran. In fact, the exact word which is the middle of the Quran is وَلْيَتَلَطَّفْ. Latif Sahib is not here. If he would hear, he would enjoy this. وَلْيَتَلَطَّفْ, which means be latif. Be latif. Be latif means be kind, be merciful. This is the exact, subhanAllah. There's a lesson here. In the exact middle of the Quran, Allah is telling us to be kind, be merciful to each other. وَلْيَتَلَطَّفْ. This is the exact middle of Surah of the Quran, and it is in Surah Al-Kahf. Now, because Surah Al-Kahf is in the middle of the Quran, it begins with the same words that the beginning of the Quran begins with. Quran begins with what? Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Surah Al-Kahf begins with what? Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So the beginning of the Quran and the middle of the Quran, both of them begins with Alhamdulillah. Another interesting point, I just told you that Jibreel alayhi salam came with Surah Al-Isra and Surah Al-Kahf together, right? Surah Al-Isra is first and then Surah Al-Kahf in the Quran, in terms of tartib, in terms of the order of the Quran. Surah Al-Isra comes first and then, if you look at the ending, I would really appreciate if you all can have Qurans in our hands so I can tell you the ayat. If you look at the ending of Surah Al-Isra, the ending, the last words of Surah Al-Isra tell us, Qul, say Alhamdulillah. Say Alhamdulillah, alladhi, to the one, lam yattakhidh walada, who has no son. Say Alhamdulillah to the one who has no son. This is the ending of Surah Al-Isra. What is the beginning of Surah Al-Kahf? Alhamdulillah. Ending of Surah Al-Isra is telling you to say Alhamdulillah, and you begin Surah Al-Kahf by saying what? Alhamdulillah. So the ending of Surah, and one another thing, very interesting thing, is that it's say Alhamdulillah to the one who has no son. So you are saying Alhamdulillah when you begin Surah Al-Kahf, and then to the one who has no son, verse number 4. Yeah, verse number 4. وَيُنْزِرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ. They say that Allah has a son, but Allah does not have a son. So the ending of Surah Al-Isra and the beginning of Surah Al-Kahf, they are linked together, perfectly linked together. Now let's understand the translation, couple of minutes. The translation of the first two verses, and inshallah in the next session we do the tafsir of the first two verses. Alhamdulillahi alladhi, all praises to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, anzala, who sent ala abdihi al-kitaba, who sent down his book upon his abd, upon his slave, meaning Prophet Muhammad sallallahu. All praises to Allah who sent down his book upon his abd Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَلَمْ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ عِوَجًا, and he has not made anything in this book that is incorrect, that is crooked. وَلَمْ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ, there is no crookedness, there is nothing incorrect in this book. قَيِّمًا, second verse. قَيِّمًا, it is straight, it is firm. لِيُنْذِرَ, through that book, بَأْسًا شَدِيدًا, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may warn you about severe punishment. Severe punishment. لِيُنْذِرَ means warning. بَأْسًا شَدِيدًا, severe punishment. Through that book, Allah will warn you about severe punishment. مِن لَدُنْهُ, and these severe punishments will come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah will warn you. But at the same time, Allah says, وَيُبَشِّرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, don't be too scared. وَيُبَشِّرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, glad tidings to the believers. Those people, الَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ الصَّالِحَاتِ. Subhanallah, very interesting point. Not only who say we believe in Allah, glad tidings to the believers, الَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ الصَّالِحَاتِ, who also do good deeds. They're not just the ones who say we believe in Allah, they also do good deeds. أَنَّ لَهُمْ أَجْرًا حَسَنًا, for these people there will be much reward and there will be much blessings. Inshallah, in our next session, we'll try to understand some of the tafsir, some of the words in these two ayat, especially Alhamdulillah. You will love the translation, the tafsir of Alhamdulillah. So I hope inshallah you will come and participate in our next session. I'm not taking more than 15 minutes, so I'm going by my promise. Alhamdulillah. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.